I hate doing this. I don't care if I'm never touched again in my life. I'm over it.
Yeah, we've lost some talk.
Hi and welcome to Blossom Talk. I'm Shashti Flo, journalist, Hollywood truth teller, and your voice of reason in a town built on delusion. There's been a lot about Nicole Kidman and Keith Urban's divorce lately, which I've been covering and which I will talk about today as well. And also tomorrow is a big day because Taylor Swift is releasing her new album, The Life of a Showgirl. And for the Swifties, of course, this is huge. But for one person, this might be a disaster. Because as everyone is speculating what song on Taylor Swift's new album is about Blake. And of course, the PR disaster that will follow from that is worse than any lawsuit from Justin Baldoni. In the meantime, Blake Lively has been posting about baking and coloring on her Instagram. I feel like she's really trying to make us see her as this homie, as this good mother, as this person who cares about everyone else. This post that she made yesterday that she was baking a cake that was based on her child's stuffy, and she showed us the entire process. And it was all because she saw this beautiful quote saying, "To be loved is to be changed forever," which is a beautiful quote. This bunny has been so loved so purely for so long. I just can't deal with these PR tricks anymore. It's so easy to see through it. And what she's doing right now by trying to convince us that she's just this person filled with so much love. Kind of an answer to what Justin Baldoni said the other day when he was harassed by TMZ at the airport and he said, "I've got a lot of love." And that's what Blake Lively is saying here. I got a lot of love too. Just look at me. I'm baking cakes that looks like child stuffed animals. Anyways, there's also another lawsuit against Justin Baldoni, which is so heartbreaking to me. The New York Times is going after the Wayfair parties to punish them with this anti-slap lawsuit that I also will get back to in this episode. But first, let's talk about Nicole Kidman, who has been out and about in public for the first time. She was followed by a paparazzi. This is like what makes me feel like being famous is the worst thing in the world. So she went out with her sister Antonia for a hike. And this guy obviously followed them, taking photos of them. So Daily Mail has the entire story here, where it says, amongst other things, that the actress was heard laughing while hiking for about 4 miles. At times, she gesticulated expressively. At other times, she linked arms with her sister and placed her hands on her heart. I mean, the people reading these things and taking these notes, it just makes me laugh. But anyway, she must have seen this guy following her and her sister this entire hike. And I don't know if she goes out in public on purpose right now because she knows she's going to be haunted by paparazzis, or if she just doesn't care and feel like, okay, I'm going to try to live my life as normal as possible. And being out in nature is always good therapy. Also, this is not Nicole's first rodeo, let's put it that way. When she divorced from Tom Cruise, things were a lot more heated. She had to sign NDAs, not to talk about anything. He's a member of Scientology, as you know, which is a cult. And the only way Nicole could get out of that was to keep silent. This time she doesn't have to keep silent. And they also agreed already on custody, who's going to have the 2 girls. And I think with Tom Cruise, it was just a big mess. And now I don't think she's in touch with her kids that she had from his marriage because of Scientology. And they chose that path to follow their dad. Anyway, so this old quote has now got new life again because she went on David Letterman right after she divorced Tom Cruise. And of course, Letterman asked her about the split. The whole interview was kind of awkward and you could see that she was really feeling like, do I really want to be here? But I do think she handled the situation with such grace and a sense of humor.
You look fantastic. I heard you're getting divorced. How's that going?
Hey!
Yeah, you look fantastic.
Thank you.
And
I don't know how to take everything.
Well, I know. It's odd. It's just an odd thing, you know?
Well, I can wear heels now.
Yeah, I can wear heels now, she said back then. Tom Cruise is 5'7" and Nicole Kidman is 5'11". So it makes sense that she didn't want to wear really high heels with him. But then she went for another guy that's shorter than her, Keith Urban. I think he's 5'10", so he's still a lot shorter than her when she's wearing heels. And then before that, she was with Lenny Kravitz, who's also shorter than her. So for some reason, Nicole Kidman keeps ending up with guys that are shorter than her. But when you are 5'11", it's really hard to find a guy that can match that. I know because I'm 5'10", and if I'm wearing heels, I'm a lot of the times the tallest person in the room here in Hollywood. I'm always shocked by how short a lot of the actors are. They look so big on the big screen, and then you meet them in person and you're like, wow. Of course, there's so much speculations right now on what went on behind closed doors in this marriage. And a lot of it comes back to Nicole's choices when it comes to movies and the parts she's been playing. And she's gone for so many of these risque parts when she had to do scenes that her husband most definitely did not enjoy watching. One of them was, of course, the one from last year, Baby Girl. But I mean, I was blushing watching some of those scenes. And when Nicole was talking about this movie, she expressed how exhausting it was for her. And she said at one point that she never wanted to be touched again. According to this article, she said that she hated filming those scenes, and she said there was an enormous amount of sharing and trust and then frustration. It's like me, don't touch me. She said that there were moments when she was overwhelmed with the script and she halted filming. They had to stop filming because she was so overwhelmed with these scenes. And she continued to say that there were times where we were shooting where I was like, I don't want to anymore. I don't think I can say that word here on YouTube. This is the word. Don't come near me. I hate doing this. I don't care if I'm never touched again in my life. I'm over it. It was so present all the time for me that it was almost like a burnout. I'm sure if you give so much of yourself to something that is really draining. And it's really hard when you're in a relationship long distance most of the time. Your husband's on tour somewhere, you were on a movie set, and then trying to keep that relationship alive. Or if you come home to that person after those kind of scenes and you just feel like drained completely. And I understand that. I mean, I could never do it. And I think there's a reason why so few people in Hollywood manage to stay together for many, many years. I tried to look for other couples that have been together for over 20 years in Hollywood, and that both partners are famous and they're equally famous, more or less. And it's very rare. But we do have Tom Hanks and Rita Wilson, who got married in 1998. Then you have Kevin Bacon and Kira Sedgwick, which I think are my favorite couple. I do follow them on Instagram. They're so cute together. They were married in 1988. And then Kurt Russell and Goldie Hawn, they never got married, but they've been together since 1983, and they're also really cute together. Also, Ted Danson and Mary Steenburgen, been together for nearly 30 years. Michael Douglas and Catherine Zeta-Jones, of course. Lisa Rinna, Harry Hamlin. Faith Hill, still married to Tim McGraw. Sarah Jessica Parker and Matthew Broderick. Will Smith and Jada are still married, but they haven't been living together for over 9 years, so I don't know if that really counts. And then you have Victoria and David Beckham, who married in 1991. Some of these couples have had a lot of ups and downs, and there have been so many speculations about them breaking up in the media, but they did stick together, which I think is really impressive. Anyways, I don't blame anyone if they want to move on, if they're unhappy with someone. If you tried everything and it doesn't work out, it's not a shame to leave and start a new life. Everyone deserves to be happy. That's my opinion. Anyways, let's get into this lawsuit that was filed by the New York Times. This really upset me on so many levels. So the New York Times filed an anti-SLAPP lawsuit against Wayfair parties. As you know, they published the story about Justin Baldoni, and that made him sue them for defamation. The lawsuit was dismissed by the judge because these things really never stick. The media can get away with mostly anything because they have something called reporter privilege that protects them against lawsuits. So these anti-SLAPP laws are really designed to protect journalists, activists, and ordinary people from being dragged into court by rich and powerful people. And the idea is basically that lawsuits shouldn't be used to silence speech on matters of public interest, which makes a lot of sense. But in this case, it flips. New York Times is the one that's powerful, and the Wayfair Studios is a very little entity and very little resources compared to a major media outlet like the New York Times. Okay, so for people who followed me for a while, they know that I have problems with this. Also, due to the fact that I was dragged into that article by the New York Times. So they mentioned my name in the article, saying that I was part of the smear campaign because I published the interview with Blake Lively when she was being rude as part of the smear campaign. And they insinuated very strongly that I was probably working with Baldoni's team to smear Blake. All of this was based on a hashtag from a previous interview that I did with Johnny Depp. And I posted that video again during his trial and I hashtagged it Justice for Johnny. This is the information that New York Times used to prove that I was a part of this smear campaign, to prove that Blake Lively's narrative that had been fed to them from only her side was the right one. What I find so scary here in this whole scenario is that New York Times never actually said that what they printed in that article is based on the truth. They're only citing that they have privilege to report on this because it was in legal papers. Another fact here is that New York Times never reported on any of Justin Baldoni's evidence when all of that came out. They just left this story completely after they had reported on it from only information coming from Blake Lively. So I reached out to New York Times back then and I said, hey, this is not true. Why are you saying that I was part of a smear campaign? Why didn't you contact me for comment here? Which is the most obvious thing that you do when you write about something. You contact them for comment. They did actually contact Baldoni's team, but they had like 3 hours to respond or whatever. It was ridiculous, but they never contacted me and asked me, is this true? And I said to them, you can't do this. You have to ask me for a comment. And then the deputy standards editor, Mike Abrams, got back to me and he sent me an email and he said, Dear Miss Flaw, we have received your email about our article on Miss Lively. Thank you for sharing your perspective. Yeah, they were really grateful that I shared my perspective. Now, they didn't ask for it earlier. And then he said, I've reviewed the article and discussed your concerns with my colleagues. We have concluded that the story does not require a correction, but we intend to update the piece to make it clear to readers that you assert you were not involved in any way in an organized effort to harm Miss Lively's reputation. Thank you again for writing to us. Yeah, so they did actually add in the article after like 24 hours that I said that I had nothing to do with it, but they refused to correct it. Why? Because that made them liable. Obviously, they don't want to admit that they have done a mistake because that could cost them. So it's obviously better for them to throw people under the bus than to admit that they made a mistake. With that in mind, to me, when I read that article, everything in there was questionable. Because now we know that the text messages and other information that they based their reporting on was retrieved in a very questionable way. So as you know, Van Zandt, this shell company owned by Ryan Reynolds, filed a lawsuit against 10 anonymous people, Jane and Joe Does, to get access to this phone owned by Justin Baldoni's publicist. At that point, Stephanie Jones, who also worked for Justin Baldoni, but decided to now be on Team Blake instead, already had this phone in her possession. She had this phone in her possession about 2, 3, 4 weeks at that point when that lawsuit was filed to get these text messages legally. And of course, as you know, when New York Times received this, they cherry-picked and they removed emojis and made it fit into the story that Blake Lively fed them. So this new anti-slap motion that they filed against the Wayfarer, they're asking for $150,000 in legal fees. They're saying that they spent this money on attorney's fees to defend themselves against this defamation lawsuit that Justin Baldoni and the Wayfarer filed against them. And they're saying that their reporting was only solely based on the CRD complaints or Blake Lively's legal filings, so they were all in the right here. It doesn't matter if what it says is true, as long as they did not do anything with malice. meaning that they knew it was wrong, which is why I hate that word malice, because it's impossible to prove malice. You can always say that I didn't know, I didn't think so in my head. Who can know what you were actually thinking at the time you did something? It's ridiculous. And the fact that even if Baldoni wins this lawsuit and proves that everything Blake Lively has been saying up to this point, or all her evidence, what she doesn't have, is not there, New York Times could still report on this, even though it's all lies. And the fact that you have no protection against these things, if someone's reporting lies about you, and you come out and defend yourself and try to do that legally, you could be buried and you could be ruined for the rest of your life financially. So if you believe that you've been defamed by a newspaper or magazine or online or whatever, the cost of defending yourself can bankrupt you. And I think that's really, really scary, because now they're asking for $150,000 in this new lawsuit. And if Baldoni's team decides to fight this and start filing back and forth, the legal fees on this could add up quite dramatically as well. And if New York Times wins, Baldoni's team will have to pay for those legal fees too, on top of the $150,000, and on top of that, punitive damages as well. Back then, a spokesperson for New York Times said that our story was meticulously and responsibly reported. And now they are trying to prove that Baldoni and the Wayfair team tried to harass them through this defamation suit. It's so unfair, you guys. Brian Friedman has already come out and commented on this, and he said something really nice. He said, "We continue to stand tall for a reason, the pursuit of truth in the face of giants. Our unwillingness to compromise our values, no matter the odds or the outcome, reflects a simple conviction that standing up for the truth and what is right matters. If the current laws protect legacy media in this manner, perhaps it's up to us to ignite that change." Yeah, that's what's so frustrating here for me, because this is not about who's right and who's wrong. This is about how the rules are structured. So the Times' victory here, and they probably will win this, doesn't prove that what they reported on was the truth. It just proves that the law makes it almost impossible for a plaintiff like Baldoni to win. Anyways, that was a bit depressing. I'm sorry about that. Tomorrow is a new day, and let's hope there's some good news out there that we can report on. Anyways, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate all your support, and welcome to all new subscribers. And if you haven't hit the subscribe button yet, please do. And also hit the notification bell so you never miss an episode of Floss and Talk. And I'll see you in my next one.
Yeah,
Bye.
we floss and talk.